Welcome to the show. This is The Business of Life, Strategies for Success. And I'm your host, Doug Johnson. During each show, we highlight a local personality who is willing to share with us their strategies for success. Today's guest is Dr. SuszanneHawthorneClay, who is an educator, a counselor, an entrepreneur, and a community volunteer. Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome. I'm really excited that you're here today.
It's a pleasure.
Well, pleasure's all mine, and I think will be of the audience too.
Okay.
You are an educator, and that really showed to me when we first met, when we were working together on the foundation board of the Twinsburg Public Library. Your caring for people just showed through. And obviously that carried through to your education experience. And I'm really kind of fascinated by that because you started working with daycare age children. Mm-hmm. You worked with grade school children, then you worked with middle school children, then high school children, and now college age children. And that just fascinates me that you kind of ran the gamut education-wise, and along the way you also held administrative and leadership positions.
Yes.
So tell us what you're doing now and how you worked your way through all of this, and what's your life story, your backstory?
Oh boy. Do you remember the doll Susie Smart?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Susie Smart came with the school desk and everything.
Okay, yeah.
I loved playing school as a child. I loved being the teacher. But I come from a family where there are several educators in the family, a lot of educators in the family. And my mother, as a matter of fact, was that was her major, in early childhood education. So it was part of me. It was part of me. But to be able to teach is my heart too. The teaching is my heart, is my passion. I actually began professionally as a teacher with the daycare, but it happened before that. My summer jobs were with the Cleveland School District and the City of Cleveland, and they would hire summer students during the summer to do different jobs. And so the very first one was at a playground. And I would play games, teach children games at the playground and just watch them swing and help the little ones swing. And then we'd go back to the center and I'd read stories and serve them graham crackers and juice. So I think I was about 12 or 13 years old for the very first job. And that was a lot of fun. But I knew that that's something that I liked. I fit there. And it's good to know where you fit and what your gifting is, and then to cultivate it. I became a daycare director while I was in college, and I helped them set up the daycare and follow all the protocols for what needs to be in place in order to get your state funding and licensure and so forth. And so that helped me to learn more about interacting with the state and the state laws and establishing an organization. I attended Kent and Cleveland State for undergrad. My first job was as an elementary school teacher. I taught elementary school for years, and I also taught inclusion, which the inclusion setting is a setting where you have team teach with a special needs teacher. So I had already had some special ed coursework in on my transcript before that, but in this setting, I worked with special needs students too, so it was a classroom where we had a special needs group that had their, with general education peers. So it was a combined classroom. So that was a great experience for me. Then I went from that to being a counselor in middle school, from counselor in middle school to high school counselor, vocational counselor. I would recruit for vocational schools. From there, I became a assistant principal, then principal. From the principal to to central office administrator and pupil personnel, which took me back to the piece with pupil personnel would be the office that takes care of counseling needs, the social needs, most of the social needs, and making sure the students have what they need in order to get to the academics. So I was a pupil personnel administrator too, which I loved all of it.
Well, and it sounds like that was the really important part to you, was the interaction with the children, and working one-on-one and helping them seems to be your go-to.
Yeah, the interaction with the children and their families, understanding, having an understanding and appreciation for whatever their story is, helping them to navigate the system. Very often when you have families that have not been educated in the U.S. or have not received an education, or were dropped out of education before graduation, before completing their high school coursework, that they may not understand how to navigate through an education system. So helping children and their families to understand the resources that are available, how to access those resources, how to apply for different things, how to be a part of something, how do you behave in certain situations, and all of that. It's really important to me. It's really important to me.
Well, you do that with the children and their parents. What would be just a couple of really quick recommendations for our audience as to how to navigate a system? Because I'm sure some of our audience has never experienced something like that before. So,
well, it depends on what the issue is, and just like something just came to mind. In business, in education, just like in business, this is called Iraq, where you identify the issue, you identify your resources, you research it, you do your research and review. Then you look at what activities need to take place, what actions you need to take, what the next steps are in order to make it happen. And then the last one, which would be C, would be the conclusion, or to what the culminating piece is. Have you achieved what you'd hope?
kind of a critique.
So, right.
Also,
so
which
kind of
starts
a
with C.
critique, or we call it backwards design too, where you look at your goals. What do you want to happen here? So for families, let's say that it's a family with a special needs student in the family, and they're looking for what is available to them. You access your school. There are counselors in the school, there are social workers in the school systems, there are psychologists in the school system. So you have your school that's available to you. You also have your pediatricians. So the pediatrician may be the first one to identify a need that a child may have. And early identification is very important. But to be able to get from the doctor's office to the school, you may need the doctor's recommendations there. There are also people that are in your community that are willing to help you. A lot of different school districts have groups that for parents of special needs students, the parent groups that will work with you. Somebody like me who's retired, well, semi-retired, who's done this for some time, would be a person that you could talk to. I've gone to IEP meetings with parents. I've been there to help parents write letters requesting that their children be assessed. I've gone to meetings and to be an observer, sometimes to lead the meeting, not to be the parent or pseudo-parent, but to be there to support the parent in getting the needs that they need. Oftentimes we forget what it's like to want something so bad but not being able to articulate it, like me right now.
You're doing fine.
But not being able to articulate what you need. You know that there's something has to be done, but I'm not sure what needs to be done. I know that this is what I want to happen in the end. So knowing what the end game is, like what the parents' goals are for the child, what the parents or the teacher's goals are for the child, helps you to devise a plan, individual education plan, IEP, for that child. And when we look at, like I was saying with pupil personnel, not only do we look at the children with exceptional needs, that like special needs, handicaps, we've called them handicaps or disabilities or whatever, but even the students that are gifted and talented as well, that they're able to access the resources that they need to be the best that they can be, because their parents see that there's potential in them, because their parents want them to be successful, because we as educators want every child to experience success.
Well, and they have the gifted also have special needs.
Has special needs.
Right.
Right.
Oftentimes they get bored in a regular class.
Exactly.
So they need something to kind
Exactly.
of push them along, keep them interested.
Exactly.
So, Suzanne, having worked with all of these age groups, do you have a favorite age group to work with?
I love high school. I get to go into high schools very often. I love what's happening with our young people now. They're, for somebody who's a baby boomer like us, they may seem like they're kind of bold, and you may call them impotent, but they're not. You have to get to know them. You have to get to know just people in general. Appreciate what they have, the great abilities that they have. You have to appreciate their gift, whatever their gift may be, what they're good at. So you can always find something good about someone. I love working with high school students. I love working with middle school students. They're funny. They're hilarious. They sometimes they often look like they're, becoming adults. They look like teenagers, but they're the same ones that'll cry because they can't get their locker open, or because so-and-so said they're not my friend anymore. The college age, I've worked with college age students, young adults, and even with the non-traditional students, sometimes students that are my age. Just being on a college campus is energizing. I'm a school person, so for me, school is not a job. It's what I do. It's what I really love. I had a situation. I was at Ashland, and I'm working, having a good time, and I get a call, and they say, Dr. HawthorneClay, do you want to get paid? And so I said, yeah, I'm an adjunct. Yeah, I want to get paid. I'm driving this long distance.
Right.
And they said, well, you haven't filled out all of your, your paperwork. You haven't done such and such. And it's like, you know what? I forgot. I forgot because I'm having such a good time. And that's the way I feel, especially on the college campuses, because I'm getting paid to do what I love. I'm getting paid to share what I know and what I love about teaching and learning, about being in the classroom, about education, about knowledge, acquiring knowledge, about research and so forth. So when you're working with college students, you're working with people who want to be there, and they really are excited about their field. They know exactly where they want to go at this point, and they're excited about where they're going, and I love that too. And then it's also exciting working with the kindergartners when they come in the first day, the ones that can't let go of mommy or daddy and cry because they're being left and aren't sure about their surroundings. And you look at those same kids in May, and they're so confident, and they're walking by themselves, and they just fit in with the rest of the big kids. So I love it all. I love it all.
Well, I was going to ask you if you preferred leadership positions or working with the kids, and I know the answer to that already.
Actually, I love both.
Really?
I like the leadership positions.
Well, why do you say that? Why do you like leadership positions?
Because it gives me an opportunity to get into many schools and classrooms.
Okay.
It gives me an opportunity to work with the teachers, and teacher education is important. When you're just in one classroom, you're in isolation. And so I know what's going on in this classroom, but I don't know what's going on in other classrooms. So when I'm in a leadership position as a lead educator, I'm in and out of other classrooms in the school. So I can go into all of the classrooms. I can work with this teacher and that teacher. I can see what the different teachers' strengths are, see how the children are progressing, what their strengths are, work with the parents, the parents in the community as well. And when I say the community, I don't just mean the teachers, the parents, and the children, the support staff within the school, but even those folks that are outside the school that are part of our community, like the business owners, the social service agencies, my neighbors across the street from the school, all of that. All of them are important. All of them are important to the success of an individual school.
Obviously, education is so important to you, and you're so passionate about it. Why should it be so important to our audience, to those of us who are in the audience and say, well, yeah, education occurs K through 12 and then maybe college. You look at education as something totally different, lifelong learning. Why should education be so important to all of us?
Because we are lifelong learners. We are lifelong learners where you never stop learning. With everything and everyone that comes into your life, they leave something. And what are you going to do with it? Are you going to share it? Are you going to build upon it? Will you research and find out more? There's so much to learn. So learning is not just about sitting in a classroom, having a textbook, taking a test. The learning can be self-promoted learning, where we go to the library.
Yes.
That's how we met.
Right.
Where you go to the library and you're doing research on your own. And with our times now having the internet, I doubt if you can find someone who hasn't delved into research in one way or another. Just looking up something on Google. Through Google, looking up a recipe.
Right. And you're learning.
You're learning. Using MapQuest. You're learning. Even to be able to use the smartphones nowadays, that's a lesson in itself.
It sure is.
That's a lesson in itself.
And I know you use your smartphone.
Oh yeah,
all the time
for everything. That's the other piece. I was a principal at a career tech school too, so I love technology and all that you could do with technology and cameras and all of that.
From.
That's why I was asking. Okay, the cameras and what are they doing and where are they? Yeah, so that's where that comes from. But education is important because we are lifelong learners. It's important for us to pass on what we've learned. The way we learn may be different. What we choose to learn may be different, but you can always benefit yourself. You always are growing. And the more you learn, the better it is for you. The more you have to share, the more you have to process. You can go anywhere through a book, but there's so many things that you can teach yourself even through books, just with minimal learning. And then the other piece with education nowadays, because of technology, we're fortunate enough to live in Ohio, where you're 20 minutes away from any college. Okay, 20 minutes away from any university. There's no direction that you can go in if you live in Ohio where you won't run into some school or a sign that says you're approaching so-and-so's university, this college or whatever. We're fortunate to have that. But we're also fortunate in our country to have, or in these times that we live in, to have online education, where there are free courses that you can take, absolutely free, on open learning, that you can take free courses. There are courses that you have minimal payments that you can make for just online degrees that you can attain. So you don't always have to work towards a degree, but there is no excuse now for not having access to education, not having access to information, because we have it. It's all here. Even our libraries have the online courses
They
right
do.
there, and courses that are offered in the library.
Yeah, to keep everyone up to date.
Right.
You know, I'd like to switch gears, Suzanne, just a bit, because on your LinkedIn page, you have a quote that I just absolutely love. And I know this is another topic that you're very passionate about. The quote is, and this is from Verna Myers, "Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance."
Okay.
Can you talk about that just a bit?
I believe in inclusion. Like I said, that I taught an inclusive class for special needs students and general ed students. I believe that inclusion, regardless of your cultural group, that inclusion is positive, that inclusion, including different people into your group, or teaching inclusion. So let me go back and say what inclusion is. Inclusion is making everyone feel welcome. Inclusion may be adjusting in order to make people feel welcome in your group. So in our classroom setting with inclusion, where there were students that may have had, were unable to complete certain tasks, there was someone in the room that would help them to complete the task. And what happens is that even the general ed students learn to include those students who may have difficulty. So they're being taught through modeling that, okay, Johnny can't do so-and-so, but I can help him do that.
That's really
And both of us can celebrate.
pretty cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
We can, when we look at inclusion where it comes to race and ethnicity and abilities, gender, when it comes to religion, and all of the other cultural divisions, it means welcoming people in. It means trying to understand them, helping them to understand you, and saying it's all right.
I really like that. I really like that. You know, we should spend a brief amount of time, and that's about what we have left, on 3 strategies for success. And you have said to me that servant leaders invest in the organization, and I'm going to add in there, because I know you well enough I can do this, not only the organization but the community, by cultivating a culture of collaboration and trust. A good leader is responsive to the gifting and strengths of others they inspire through mentorship and guidance, and lead by example. Those are the 3. Can you talk about those and how they fit with your life and how you think they can help those in our audience?
Okay, I'll go backwards. Lead by example, and for that one I used scripture for that, because my faith is very important to who I am not just on Sunday, but who I am Sunday through Saturday, and no matter where I am. So to lead by example is about doing the right thing, looking at a situation, and what is the right thing to do, what is the right choice to do, or what would Jesus do, okay, and responding in that way. To lead by example means that I'm going to work with you. You don't work for me. We work together, and I will work with you. That I'm going to roll up my sleeves. If there's a job to be done, a task to be completed, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and work alongside you. To lead by example, and with the others with collaboration,
Right.
means that
Ties right in.
that if you have an idea, that your idea is just as important as my idea. My title does not give me power or make my ideas more important than your ideas. That we share, and we come up with the best conclusion. To lead by example, or what was the other one about collaboration in the community, is bringing everyone together and doing appreciative inquiry first, instead of looking at what's wrong all the time. And that oftentimes that's what leaders will do, will come in and into a new setting and point out everything that needs to be changed. But sometimes there's a reason why people do things the way they do. Find out why.
And find out what's going right.
And what's going right. So list the things that the community appreciates about the organization. Those that are within the building or the organization, and those that are outside the organization, those that are looking in. What do they appreciate about it? What's right? What's good about it? What do we always want to keep? What do we celebrate? And then you also talk to your stakeholders. You have to create a dialogue with them about what needs to be done, what their goals are. Make sure that you have the same goal, because if you have different goals, you'll never meet any goals.
Right. and that brings us, of course, to the words trust and respect.
Trust and respect.
So, Suzanne, we have to close off, but I'm sure our audience today got a lot of good tips from you, and I really appreciate your being here. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Recently, there has been a scandal reported by the news media, and this scandal involves parents who are paying to get their children into college. Bribes, lies, altered pictures, and so on and so forth. Seriously? I mean, come on, folks. Let a child be a child. Let them be themselves. We are so enamored of folks these days that really tell the truth, their morals, their ethics. Don't be a helicopter parent. Don't be a lawnmower parent. You know, one of those parents that mows everything down to get their children what they want. Let the child be the child. Let them be honest and ethical.